One of my great passions is pioneer aviation, and this includes every aspect from the aircraft and pilots to the designers themselves, all the way to airmail stamps. It's a huge area to research and to collect. Today, I'm going to look at the stamp that began my lifelong passion, Canada's first airmail stamp, Allegory of Flight. Post office officials tapped the great Canadian designer Herman Herbert Schwartz, sometimes called Henry Schwartz in the documents, to create this stamp. And he would go on to design all of Canada's short lived airmail series. Silas Robertson was the engraver. Now, this particular stamp was fraught with issues and controversies. The image you can see now was sent June 20th, 1928, and by July 4th, the post office returned it for alterations and remodeling to Schwartz and his team. The stamp was returned to the lead of the Canadian Post Office team, a Mr. Gabori, by July 11th, and it remained in his hands until July 28th, when it was sent back to the banknote company for further changes. In the meantime, the design team was under immense pressure to complete the stamp sooner than they planned. On July 24th, the Postmaster General's office readied a press release announcing that the new stamp would be released September 1st, 1928. This was a surprise to the team. They hadn't finalized the design. An alert secretary in the postmaster's office contacted the head of the team, Mr. Gabori, letting him know a news release was being prepared to go out that evening. Panic had ensued because not only was the design as yet unapproved, the price wasn't firmly established, and no printing date was set. All credit goes to Miss Mary Doyle, a member of the postmaster's staff, for a bit of fast thinking and avoiding a complete embarrassment to the postmaster. She rapidly fired off a telegram to Gabori, who was in Montreal at the time for meetings. He was able to convince the postmaster to delay the announcement until his return. Regardless the status of the work, news was sent out, and the post office was soon inundated with questions about the design. It wasn't until August 11th that the details were finalized, and at that time, the post office announced the new stamp would be 5 cents, but they still didn't know when and where the stamps would go on sale first. If you look at the proof in this image, you'll note that in the left-hand corner, there were a number of notations made. This is the proof that was sent back to the Schwartz team by Gabori after July 29th, 1928. In it, there were a number of requested alterations. The first were the wheels of the undercarriage, and it was felt the wheels weren't quite correct, and the post office wanted them displayed clearly under the airplane. The second states that they wanted a shorter wing spread. It's a slight shortening of the wings to create a more balanced aircraft. The third is a little bit of a mystery. It simply states arms of figure. It's unclear what they meant. And by September, the stamp was ready for release, and the post office issued the first Canadian airmail September 21st, 1928. The story doesn't end there. The stamp ruffled quite a few feathers when it was released, and by October, newspapers across the country were picking apart the angels, taking exception to everything from their gender to their wings. An example of the ire the angels provoked can be seen in a Vancouver Sun article titled Airmail Males Are Female. And in it, they make it clear the angels in Canada's new airmail stamp were female, while the Christian Bible always referred to angels as being sons of God or God's messengers. So they claimed, therefore, all the angels had to be male. To be fair, the official post office bulletin issued in September, it's bulletin number 393, if you're curious, did clarify that the angels in the stamp were female. So the Sun didn't pick that idea out of thin air. The next dust-up came after an eagle-eyed individual took exception to the number of wings depicted on the stamp. In a Daily Province editorial, the following was published. There are two flying figures supporting the top half of the globe, and behold, they have but one wing apiece. Turn or twist the stamp how you will, you will only find one wing on each figure. And there seems to be something symbolical in this too, for I have a letter from a stamp enthusiast who sent some covers away, and they were received by her 2 days later than the ordinary mail. Obviously, it is the duty of the post office to add the extra wing without undue delay. I think people spent way too much time analyzing a simple picture, and this just proves that conspiracies are not new. The controversy even made its way up the food chain, all the way up to the post office's financial superintendent, who weighed in on the controversy. Mr. H.E. Atwater, the superintendent, sent a note to the Canadian Banknote Company, the people in charge of designing and printing the stamp, questioning the lack of wings and further suggesting that it be corrected post haste. The banknote company politely replied that, quote, technically the comment was correct, end quote, and that the artist had opted to leave the second wing out because their inclusion would crowd and spoil the general effect of the stamp. They thought the issue was settled, but the post office kept making a bit of a to-do about it. And finally, the banknote company's vice president and general manager had had enough about the dust up over the angelic bits and issued what could be considered one of the best official responses ever recorded. In it, he says, I feel as you, Mr. Atwater, a certain modesty in discussing the habits of angels. It is possible that their powers are not circumscribed and that they are able to fly with one wing better than most earthly winged creatures fly with two. Neither the post office nor the banknote company bowed to the press or public pressure. Allegory of Flight remained as Schwartz designed it.